Welcome back to Silicon Heartland Sessions, where we spotlight the visionary leaders shaping the future of leadership, technology, and community in the Silicon Heartland. Today, I'm joined by Hope Yin, the brilliant founder and owner of Blueprint Coaching. Hope's work centers on helping individuals align with their inner purpose, unlock their full potential, and lead from a place of clarity and strength. So, throughout this conversation, we'll explore Hope's personal journey, her coaching philosophy, and her insights on leadership in the age of AI. We'll also weave in powerful themes from books that have shaped her path: Energy Leadership by Bruce Schneider, Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, How Women Rise by Sally Helgesen and Marshall Goldsmith, and of course, reflect on her chosen theme song, Reflection from Disney's Mulan. Hope, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sean. It's such an honor to be with you today.
Well, the honor is mine, really. So, Hope, I'm really looking forward to this conversation because, as we discussed earlier, your work sits at such a unique intersection: personal transformation, leadership, coaching, and the evolving role of technology in our lives. There's a lot that I'm really looking forward to exploring with you today. I will admit, this isn't where I usually start an episode, so I typically ease into the personal side a little later. But in your case, I want to begin with something foundational. So you selected Reflection, a song from Disney's Mulan, as your theme song. And I have to say that choice, it hit me. That song it's powerful. It's about identity, expectations, and having the courage to let the world see who you really are. I can't help but think there's a deeper story behind why you chose it. And I think it might, tie in beautifully with how you show up in your work and your life. So why don't we start there? Why Reflection, and how has your journey shaped the way you think about balance, not just in terms of work and life, but in how you show up as a leader, a coach, and a whole human being?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I appreciate that question. Yeah, I chose reflection. Even just when you talk about it, it hit me in the heart because I'm a Chinese American. So, of course, everybody in China knows about Mulan. Ever since I was a little child, we have this poem about Mulan. How, as you know, the story goes that she had to pretend to be a son of his father to serve in the military. And she did a great job as a leader, as a fighter, as a knight. And so the moral of that story for the little kids is it doesn't matter whether you are a little girl or a boy, you can do things you want. Do not be limited by your gender. So that principle really guided me through my life. I constantly think about, yes, I am a girl, but I can do engineering. I went to aerospace engineering for college and graduate school, and then worked in technology for my whole career. But on the other hand, I am consciously aware that I am a female. I'm a mother. I am a wife. I am a friend. So
Mhm.
it's how you define all those roles in a congruent way of not losing our own identity, but also not be limited by it. I have to say that my whole life has been a journey of finding who I truly am. I'm still looking for the true I am, but I would say that I'm getting closer and closer.
Right.
So that song really hit home for me.
I'll say a couple of things. One is, it really hits me as a father of two, young women. It's hard for me to even think about them as young women. They've always been my little girls.
Right.
And but that said, I truly want them to believe in their heart of hearts and know that they can accomplish whatever they set their hearts out and their minds out to do and to be. On the other side, what you were saying about all the different roles that you play, all the different hats you wear, and so forth. The word that comes to mind really is balance. How do you balance out all of your obligations and all those different roles, and also making sure that you're taking care of yourself in the kind of world that we live in. And I'm just, I'm curious, how do you define balance? And
Yeah.
I would imagine that's probably evolved over the years.
Oh, absolutely. I think when we think about balance, a lot of times we're thinking about that, right? Like you have to constantly shift. And it's actually true. You have to constantly shift depending on the work you're doing. Maybe for you, Sean, it could be a big project at work. It requires more time spent, maybe some overtime, and that's fun for a period of time. For me, there was a period of time that I was a single mother for almost a decade. I was the sole caregiver of my two young children, but I also had a high demanding full time job in a Fortune 500 company. So, how do you balance all of those obligations? And you learn, you adapt, you manage your time. So, that's what really I think made me very good at time management and the
Hmm.
prioritization on a daily basis. Even today, even right now, I'm working for myself. I still have a calendar to look at every single day.
Hmm.
What do I need to prioritize first? And so, thinking about when we do not have time for women, especially, a lot of times we would put our own need the last. That
Right.
happened to me.
Hmm.
I would take care of the family first, work first, and me last.
Yeah.
But I think for a long time, that's not really healthy because we know we cannot give what we don't have.
Right.
And so I have to consciously find a time. For example, when my children were playing some sports, I will join them, play sports. So I got my exercise in. And so, how do you be smart, be strategic to balance everything in your plate? I think it's a science and art.
Yeah, and so interestingly, talking about how you balance these different roles is one angle you can look at it. We've also talked about some of the sort of limiting beliefs that people can take upon themselves. Not just women. I think we all, in whatever walk of life we're in, we take on these limiting beliefs. Um, and I have a feeling that this is something you've struggled with yourself. And how have you sort of risen above that and found that level of balance as well?
I had a lot of limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
So, um, growing up in a different culture, our Chinese culture is more of do everything yourself if you can to show how strong you are. Asking for help almost was looked at a sign of weakness. So it took me years to learn how to ask for help and how to ask for help without feeling guilty or bad about. And I think one of the key points was when I was taking care of my own children, two of them, and my dad also had a stage 4 lung cancer, was lying in the hospital bed. So one of my daughters actually was sick lying in the bed. And now I have to think about, okay, we talk about balance. Who do I choose? My dad or my daughter?
Right.
So at that point, because I had to stay in the hospital with my dad, I asked a group of my friends, I said, hey, friends, one of my children is sick. Can any of you maybe cook some soup and some warm food for her and drop off? And I have multiple friends raise their hand. So even today, when I talk about that, I was getting emotional. So when we really have the courage to ask for help, people are willing to help. But we have to initiate that. Of course, you may have people surrounding you. They will go to you and say, hey, Sean, do you need any support? Do you need any help? But still, we know what we need the most.
Hmm.
So we need to clearly communicate to other people what we need, what we want, how can other people help us. And once I pass that, now I am very comfortable asking for help. And I am also very willing to offer that help to other people.
Wow, amazing. What a great story. So, Hope, in energy leadership, there's a focus on awareness and choice. And in this story, you've demonstrated both, and and sort of how that shows up in your day to day. As you think about all of the practices that you've sort of honed over the years, in this particular case, awareness and choice, but other practices. Um, what's other practices have propelled your success?
Yeah, I want to just maybe briefly introduce the energy leadership framework because it is truly a framework that transformed my life. That is the tool that I use every single day. Even right now, I don't have um, those lower level of energy often, but still, when it shows up, I can quickly recognize and switch.
Mhm.
So the energy leadership framework is developed by IPAC Coaching School, and it talks about when we have showing up energetically, like you and me, Sean, right now we're smiling, we're at a higher level of energy, right? So the
Mhm.
lowest level energy is victim, there's nothing I can do, helpless, hopeless. The second level would be a fighter, you are wrong, I am right, just listen to me. The micromanager would be at a level two. Level three is I'm responsible, I need to get things done, I forgave you, but let's move forward. Level four is I care about you. This is where we talk about a servant leadership, and I
Mhm.
want you to be successful. Level five is one. Let's meet in the middle. Let's accept each other. Let's put our perspective together and find the best solution. And the higher you go, you can feel the energy is more uplifting, creative, collaborative. So let's imagine if all our leaders in our companies, in our associations, even in our family, as the parents, if
Mhm.
we can operate at a higher level of, I care about you, I want to help you success, let's find the best solution. There's so many opportunities. What the world would look like? I just, I just love to see that someday. So because of that, if a person feels stuck, feel they don't have a choice. But now I can give you seven different choices. You
Mhm.
can choose. You may not be able to easily from, oh, there's nothing I can do, I'm at the lowest level, all the way to, this is good, I have a lot of opportunities. But because you're aware, then you can ask yourself, do I want to stay here a little longer? And why do I want to stay here? Or you can look at the other levels. Maybe I couldn't go to the highest level, but I can say, I'm so tired of this and I got to do something, even move up to level two, allow us to have some action.
Right.
So if you think about it, a lot of this we just kind of put onto autopilot, right? When something happened, we automatically think that's the only choice, that's the only way. But no, there are other choices. And
Right.
there is a saying, I think it's called grace lies in between the event and our response.
Mhm.
So if we take time as leaders to think about when there is a crisis, what are our options? I think we are going to be able to make more, better decisions. We're going to have
Mhm.
more engaged workforce.
Right. Yeah, you're telling me a leader's journey through different stages of leadership, growing over time. And I think the thing that that really hits me is, it sounds to me like when you get to that top level, that's all about helping other people rise. And kind of going back to our conversation earlier, your passion for women in technology, dealing with things like limiting beliefs. I'm curious, Hope, how do you help others rise, especially when having dealt with your own limiting beliefs, other folks are struggling with the same thing.
Yeah. So I would say that a lot of times it's related to a person's journey, how they were brought up, the environment they were in. However, I would say that a lot of times we don't know that we actually have choices and the powers to change certain things, including the systems. And so when I coach with women, first I would work with them on where did they come from and what might some other choices we have and which choice do you think you can get into. By the way, overcome limiting belief is not an overnight task. It's a long-term process, little by little. For me, I think is like 5 decades of work. And think about what kind of belief I have, question whether they're true or not. Being coached, I have my own coaches to coach me. But on the other hand, Sean, I think I also work with them beyond the self-limiting belief because
Hmm.
we know we can't be successful by doing everything alone. It's not possible. So
Yeah.
I also coach them on looking around to find mentors, sponsors, allies, and other people they can work together.
Right. Reminds me of that quote, alone we can go fast, but together we can go far. You know.
Yeah, lovely. And I actually changed that version. If you want to hear it, I will share.
Please.
Yes, I know that when we say if we want to go faster, we want to go alone because, hey, we already know how things work
Right.
and let's quickly do it. Often, sometimes that's the leader's limitation, right? If I do it, I can finish it faster and better. But I would say today, because how technology changes so fast, even want to go fast, we may also need to go together. So I
Mhm.
changed it
Hmm.
to if we want to go fast, go together. If we want to go far, go together.
There you go. I love it. I would agree. And I'm with you. When it comes to community, that's something I'm very passionate about. And building teams with differing ideas and diversity of thought. But at the same time, we also have to have balance. We have to take time out of our daily life to take care of ourselves. To invest in our own health and our own well-being. What are your foundational routines that support your mental, your emotional, and your physical wellness?
Yes, you are absolutely correct that not only as leaders we need to handle all the things, but also ourselves is a part of this ecosystem. An unhealthy leader will not be able to sustain a good
Mhm.
long-term leadership. So for
Well said.
me, every morning, the first thing when I get up after a cup of coffee, I'm going to the gym. And then after I come back, that's when I start my day. And throughout the day, of course, it's very easy to just glue to our chair, meeting after meeting. For
Mhm.
me, I constantly remind myself to take a couple deep breaths. It doesn't have to be 5 or 10 minutes meditation. Just deep breath and breathe in, hold and breathe out. And just a few repetition of that can calm our nerves. And also, I have a dog. If I could walk her during the lunchtime, I will do
Mhm.
that. But also leveraging the energy leadership that I learned. So if you work aside with me, Sean, you would almost never see me get mad, upset because of the many years of training, coaching, thinking about I have choices, I can go
Mhm.
to the high energy.
Right. I almost feel
So
like the way I think of it, is going through your daily routine and like going to the gym in the beginning of the morning and doing your breathing routines and so forth. Even taking your dog for a walk, going through those rituals, um, that is strengthening. It's
yeah,
almost preventative. I agree with you. I'm a morning gym person too, and I can't even think about like starting the day without going to the gym, because then I just feel like something is truly missing, because
Exactly, right?
I'm just so used to having that sense of accomplishment right at the beginning of the day,
Yeah.
and it's not just the accomplishment, it's the challenge of it too. At that point you feel like, hey, if I can do this, then there's nothing I can't accomplish throughout the day.
Yeah, I love that. Um, can I also share evening routine?
Please.
Because
Yeah.
we know that our next day actually started the night before.
Well said.
So normally by 9 o'clock, I'm done with all my phone, all my digital devices, and I would leave my device on charge and I will read books and
Mhm.
start ready for sleep, because a good night's sleep is equally important on our mental health, on our energy levels. And so that's what I do for bedtime routine.
That's advice I need, to be honest with you. I do not get enough sleep at night. I'll be the first to admit that's an area that I need to improve. So I really appreciate the advice.
All right, try that, Sean.
But that said, and kind of steering us a little towards technology waters a little tiny bit. I am curious, while we're on the topic of wellness and well-being and so forth, how do you see, like how is AI changing your work? Or, like your perspective around mindfulness, around mental health, and things like sustainable productivity.
Yeah. So first of all, right now my full-time work is coaching speaking.
Yeah.
And so I use many AI tools for my day-to-day end-to-end workflow. For example, the first thing would be my calendar. That's a AI tool, Calendly. And then during coaching, I can record, of course, with my clients' permission agreement to record and then summarize the action items. And then as a speaker, before I even talk about the topic, write the proposal to speak at a conference, I go to Google Gemini to do ideation. I go to Perplexity for research. I use DeepSeek. As you know, DeepSeek is a fairly newer to the world since
Hmm.
January 2025. But I use all those tools to my advantage to think about who are my audience, what's my topic, how can I make my topic most relevant to my audience, right? And then even during the meetings, recording, summarize, Otter.ai can take notes. And afterwards, as a coach or speaker, the work never ends. Even after a conference, you may share some post or a short video. I use the AI Opus Clip to break down a long form uh, podcast or conference presentation into digestible 60 seconds videos. Maybe
Hmm.
after our recording, we can do that together, Sean. so,
Sounds like
so
fun.
all of those tools, they are
Hmm.
making me more productive so that I can focusing on the message, the
Hmm.
story, because only I can do that. It's my story. It's my experience that I want to share with them. But I would say that all this technology, whether it's AI or some other technology, social media, it's impacting our wellness and emotional awareness, because we are human and all the tools can make us to be addicting to them.
Hmm.
And also, when we use any technology, it's very easy to believe whatever they're saying, they're outputting is true.
Yeah. Very
And
true.
that's where the harm might come in, right?
Hmm.
Because we know AI can hallucinate. And how can we make sure we're using all the AI tools uh, strategically,
Hmm.
ethically, safely, and also do not make the tools dictate us, because they're called tools. So we dictate them.
Right. Yeah, with all of the tools that you use, and again, as you said it, I think we all look to AI to help us improve our productivity and so forth. But I think the thing I love that you said, that frees you to focus more on your message and what you're trying to accomplish. I was going to ask you, and again, you're bringing up some of the challenges of AI, things like hallucinations and the fact that it can say things that with such confidence that are just untrue. You also have the same kind of concerns, shaping the output of that to come out in your voice. How do you make sure that you're achieving your productivity gains, and it's allowing you to focus on the message and so forth? How do you also make sure that you're taking the next step, that what's actually being produced in terms of a speech or a coaching session that really feels and sounds and is authentically you?
Yeah. So for any AI tools, my belief is the human should always be in the loop. So I am always in the loop. I
Hmm.
never use the output from any AI tools without me going through it. And it is my message, making sure it is my message, making sure it's expressing what I want to express.
Right.
And so that's my human in the loop to ensure the quality. But
Hmm.
I understand that for a large corporation, that may not be always the case. You may not have all the bandwidth to always quality control all the output. So that's a challenge. And how do we keep the quality in check?
Hmm.
So
Well said.
organizations need to find a mechanism to ensure the AI isn't harming our audience, our customers, and our
Right.
products is sound.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you said it really well. You're not outsourcing the important editorial work that needs to happen to make sure that what's coming out, that the outcome is something that you can truly say is your creative work. Sure, you did it in partnership with AI, but at the end of the day, they were your ideas. This is your voice, and the only way you can do that is by with through oversight, like you said, human in the loop.
Yes.
But kind of pulling on that thread, when you started talking a bit about AI in the workplace and so forth and leaders, I think there's an interesting intersection there. I'm wondering, in your mind, what role should AI play in augmenting or challenging leadership development?
That's a great question. I think leadership development is a journey. We are never done our work until we are done from this world. So, as a leader, it's important for them to also adapt the AI tools and leveraging AI without disclosing any confidential information.
Yeah.
You can pretty much find all the answers, right? If, let's say, you're going to have a difficult conversation with an employee, without disclosing any personal information, you can ask AI for guidance. How am I going to have this conversation?
Hmm.
And AI does a pretty good job with the intelligence level of a master degree or a PhD degree sometimes. And of course, human in the loop, check all those output, making sure it's something that you're comfortable to leverage to work with your employee. But also, if you think about some projects you're doing at work, need a strategy, ask AI safely. And AI is really good at coming
Hmm.
up with a marketing plan. I do that all the time. And even sometimes is performance review. Of course, you won't disclose any PI information. That's what I constantly share with people. Anything you don't want to make public, do not share in the AI tools.
Yeah.
I
Agree.
I compare that to when you make a cake, you put sugar as an ingredient. And then
Hmm.
after the cake is made, you said, oops, I don't want sugar. I'm sorry, too late. The sugar cannot be extracted.
The sugar's in there.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. So, essentially, artificial intelligence tools, they play an important role in leadership and for leaders in that they can serve as valuable companions for leaders in terms of accelerating outcomes and doing work that would ordinarily take us humans, much more time to do. Therefore, presumably giving us an opportunity to focus on the important part of leadership, the human to human leadership side of the equation. Are there, principles that like guide your leadership approach today?
For me, I always believe that I want to ask my team something that I am not willing to do. So
Hmm.
I always want to be a role model to them. For example, when cloud technology first came out, I want to learn about cloud. I want to get certified. I won't just ask my team, say, you go get certified. When AI first came out, I want to learn about AI. I want to learn about all the in and out. How can we leverage? How can we continue to upskill our workforce? So that's one thing that I want to be the role model. And second thing, I always care about people. I think yes, we have project need to be done. Yes, we have um, KPT. We need to is that KPT? OKR. We need to finish. But in the end, when you, especially for me right now, I left a corporate. What I miss most is the people. And
Right.
but I am very lucky that the team I used to lead, we still have conversation and we
That's great.
still bouncing off ideas with each other. So I think I did something good.
You definitely did.
So I don't just say that you're my team because I'm managing you and I want to develop you. I
Mhm.
want to support them for whenever they want me, I will be there for them.
That's beautiful. I like that. Yeah. It's, and these presumably these become lifelong relationships, you know?
Oh yeah, that's one thing I want to say that a lot of people have different opinions about work and life. Yes, we need to learn the boundary about work and personal life. But I truly believe the best team I have worked with because those people are my work soulmates. Not because we have the same personalities, because we have the same goals, similar goals. We want to develop a great product. We want to serve our customers. We want to make a difference, and all of that made us to become a great team and marching to the same goal.
Right. I love that. And earlier when we were talking, you mentioned the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. How has that book influenced the way that you lead and help others lead?
So Sheryl Sandberg was one of the top executives
Hmm.
in Google and Facebook as well. One of the things she mentioned in the book was that until she herself got pregnant, she never knew that pregnant women, it's hard for them to walk for a long way from the parking lot to the office. But
Hmm.
because of her executive level, and she was able to help change the policy. And
Wow.
that to me is we need more women in leadership and senior leadership positions because we can't expect our other gender, our allies understand what we're going through, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard when we do not have such a personal experience to imagine what that means. But if we have the representation at the table, taking a seat, I'm not just talking about women. I'm talking about all different kinds of group, whoever they are associated with. Maybe it's LGBT, maybe it's immigrant like myself who spoke English as a second language. all of those people, when we have representation who can contribute to a decision, and that will have an outcome that works for everyone. And in the
100%.
end, right now, I think we all born with equal rights, even though our environment may be different. But how can we provide such opportunity to everybody?
Right.
So I
Obviously,
think that's really, yeah.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Obviously, relationships are really, really important to you. I have to imagine that you've had some really great experiences mentoring and being mentored by others. Um, so I'm just curious, can you maybe share like a mentorship moment, like either being mentored or mentoring, that's like shaped your leadership philosophy?
Yes, I think I'm very fortunate that I had a lot of mentors. I had a lot of sponsors, allies. But I would want to share one particular person. Sean, you know him as well, Doug McCullough,
Yeah, of
who
course.
was
Yeah,
in your podcast.
he was.
He
It was a
was
great
the one.
conversation.
Yeah. So he was the one who actually introduced me to the uh, Central Ohio IT leadership
Mhm.
program.
Yeah,
And that's actually how you and I met
that's
because
right.
we went through the same program in different
Sure did.
years.
Mhm.
But that's how, when Doug realized that that would be a great opportunity for me to explore, and he reached out and he invited me. So I think in our life, we have many different type of mentors, formal
Mhm.
mentor, informal mentor. And I would never forget that Doug opened the door
Yeah,
and provided opportunity for me. And we still, from time to time, talk to each other. And he is a very wise leader. And every time you have a conversation with him, you always learn something from him.
right. I totally agree. One of the wonderful things about doing this podcast and getting to meet people like yourself and Doug McCullough and others in the community is I've heard this story so many times, where, they were inspired by somebody who saw something in them that they didn't even see themselves. And all it took was a little nudge in the right direction. And it was life
Yeah.
changing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It absolutely is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, yes, throughout my career, I have mentored many other people as
Yeah.
well, including my own team. So I still keep great relationship with them, close relationship with them, and checking with them. But I would say that one of my mentees, without mentioning name, that when she and I worked together, I truly mentored her to become the next level of leader and
Mhm.
how to build a relationship with other people surrounding them. And so, yeah, I have many mentors. I'm very proud of them.
That's excellent.
Mentees, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really important part of leadership and community and giving of yourself and, not worrying about what you're going to get in return. And, it all comes back, full circle.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the pay it forward, right? When
Yeah.
we receive that support from other people, they may not need us to pay back. So what we do is pay forward to other people who need that
Right.
kind of support.
I love it. I love it. So thinking about technology and, I know, and your many passions, if you could create a technology that eliminates one bad habit of humanity, what would it target and why?
I think because of my own journey, and I think about this a lot. If I have a technology to remove a habit, I would like that to be removing humans' self limiting, self sabotage, that inner critic, that imposter syndrome, that holding
Mhm,
us back. The reason I'm saying that is I often think about, imagine if we put the babies into an environment and we teach them all the great principles and they never watched any movie that has bad guys. I wonder what they will grow up into. So for me, I really spent my life kind of get onto things because other people told me that's how it should be working, that how I should be behaving, that how the system works. And I feel that if I think myself as a bird, my wings start to get shorter and shorter and wrapped up. But then later on, I realized, but I want more. I think I can do more. I can be more. I can contribute to the society more. So I start to kind of strengthen my wings and get out of those wrap around and to start to learn fly again. And
Hmm.
I'm still working on that, but I would say less and less I don't believe myself anymore. I think if we can all have that kind of um, mindset of I can do this, how would you think? Well, I think we'll be more productive and collaborative.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I just, I would say that I love the story that you're telling about the bird and the wings. And, you know, it kind it's interesting to me because I'm of the belief that, strength comes out of adversity. It's when you make mistakes. It's when you're struggling with something. That's the thing that that sort of makes you who you are. It's like going through that journey is important, you know? And so
It is.
I would agree with you, and I'll be the first to admit, I've been overly protective of my kids from the moment they were born, want to protect them from the world. And sometimes I wonder if that was maybe a little misguided, because I think there's value in going through that struggle. I mean, you certainly wouldn't be who you are today had you not, saw that you were limiting yourself with these beliefs and and as you're balancing out all these different roles in your life and taking the time for yourself to deal with it, to address it, to hit it head on, to
Mm.
surround yourself with people that could help lift you up so that then you can lift others up. I don't, it feels to me like going through that journey is the thing that was the impetus for so much of your the your success in life and just kind of becoming who you are today as a leader.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. I think you're right. I think maybe that's a part of the beauty of life. It's messy, it's painful, it's
Yeah.
hurtful. But once we come out of that, we are so much stronger, resilient. And a word that I would like to use these days is, when if we are some kind of ball. And when we
Hmm.
hit the ground, maybe there is a dent, but gradually it will come back to the original shape. But what if we are made of a type of material because we have done all of that, and now all of a sudden, when we hit the ground, when we hit an obstacle, we are not being bent anymore. It's
Right.
called anti-fragility, right? I think that's the word.
Hmm.
The more we go through life, the more we become more resilient and just more powerful.
Right. I would agree 100%. So in that theme, or in that vein, I know that when it comes to limiting beliefs and folks struggling, I know you're very, very passionate about supporting women professionals in technology. May, would you tell me more about that?
Yes. So I told you, Sean, that ever since I was a little girl, I was told that I can do everything, just like Mulan, what she can do. But I also know that through my journey, there are some learned behavior. There are also some system status quo that women in technology are not in a even playing field. If
Hmm.
you see the statistics right now, almost 70% of the senior leadership in technology are male and less than 30% are female. And how can we change that representation? Because I think if we have the right representation, and that will allow us to create better products to our customers. And because
Mhm.
our customers most of the time includes all genders, and I think we have different style of leadership. It's not whose is better, who is worse. It's more about we all have our strength. How can we leverage each other to collaborate? And so I do believe that women leadership is something that we need to celebrate more because
Mhm.
we're more interpersonal relationship, right? If
Right.
you look at Sean, look at yourself as a great leader. One thing I appreciate you is you showed your vulnerability. You showed that you are approachable. All of those very easy for women, right? We're kind of naturally we were trained that way.
Mhm.
So, and that's why I'm so passionate about, because I think when companies tap into more women leadership or
Yeah.
even more women leadership style, we're going to have a better business outcome, business growth. And actually, there are studies to show how many billions of dollars of business growth can be extracted from
Right.
women leadership.
Yep, makes sense. And I think you're leading me in the direction that I was actually hoping we would go. At the very beginning of the conversation, you talked about making decisions that can lead to change, and you emphasize that we can even change systems. And now you just again talked about the importance of changing systems as we were talking about bringing more women into technology. And so, can we talk about, maybe from your perspective, what are some of the hidden challenges that women still face in leadership today?
Yeah. So there are a lot. If you, I shared that one of the books I really like is from Sally Helgesen and Marshall Goldsmith, the book How Women Rise. It
Hmm.
talked about 12 habits that women has, but it's not just because we want to have such kind of habits. It's sometimes the system, the societal expectation on women.
Hmm.
So if you think about, let's say, of course, this could be a controversial topic. A lot of the companies right now are asking people to go back to the office, whether it's full time or 3 days
Hmm. Yeah.
a week. I have no judgment on that, but as leaders, we need to think about who in our team are having challenge on that. Women as a whole, on a daily basis, we're still spending 1 or 2 hours more on chores. So when we have such a policy, I
Hmm.
believe majority of the moms, women are suffering more than other people. And so I think as leaders, we need to be conscious about the decision we make, the policy we roll out, and how can we have guidelines. I understand when we are in the office, we may be more interacting with each other, we may be more innovative, all those benefits, awesome.
Hmm.
But can we be having the benefits in the meantime also offer flexibility to the young parents who may need to take care of their young children at home? So that's one. The second one is that when we have town halls or when we have a conference or when we have speakers, and sometimes when I saw the pictures on the flyer or the people in front of a big conference room, if we have only one gender, then we're
Hmm.
not sending the right message
Yeah.
because we cannot become what we cannot see. So I think as leaders, we need to be conscious about who is going to be in the room, who should be in the room, who can be invited to the room. So those are some examples. There's a lot more. Um, so
Mhm.
just something that I think as leaders we need to be conscious. We
Yeah,
talk
I
about
would agree.
conscious a lot, Sean.
This is true. I will say, as a father of two daughters, I want them to come into a world that values equity and values inclusivity and diversity. I want to rest assured that when they come into their careers and so forth, that the only thing that's stopping them is themselves, and they've got every advantage that they could possibly be afforded. So
Yeah.
that really resonates with me. So in that vein, what roles can allies play in dismantling some of these barriers?
Oh, I love that, Sean. You know, you are a big ally of us. So I think that sometimes if we talk about this issue, it can be considered like crying babies, right? Because
Hmm.
but it's close to us. So we have to talk about it. But I think when allies talk about some hurdles that's specific to women or LGBT or other groups, then the weight is different.
Hmm.
So I had a lot of allies in my life. And one thing, for example, Sean, if you're in a room, if you see there are 10 people, and if all of them are one specific ethnicity or gender or some
Yeah,
group, maybe that's when we need to ask a question. Do we have the right people at the table? So that's
well
one thing. Do
said.
we have the right people?
Hmm.
And second thing is we know that women like sponsorship. We have a lot of mentors, even though sometimes maybe women need more mentors. But statistically, we have more mentors than maybe we need, but we have less sponsors than we need. Sometimes
Hmm.
we have zero sponsors. So, as an ally, can you be a sponsor of a woman? Sponsor is different than mentor. Sponsor is when the person is not in the room, you could say, but I know Amy can do this.
Hmm.
But I know Amy deserves a promotion. But I know Amy need a raise. That it was what sponsorship is about.
Makes
Because
sense.
you are in the room, you can impact a decision. And I think we really need a lot of male allyship in that case. But even just, let's say someone is not in a position to make such critical decision, but
Hmm.
what if in a meeting, if a woman was interrupted again and again by another person, ally could say, "Hey, can you let Amy finish? Let's
Right.
listen to Amy. So, Amy, what do you think?" And that's allyship. So there's so many different ways we can do that. And if you continue to talk to women like me and women in your workplace and even your own daughter, you will find there's so many places we can leverage your allyship.
Makes sense. I love it. And to me, what you're saying is it's one thing to talk the talk, and talking the talk is important. It's important for us to have the right conversations. It's important for us to advocate, and so forth, and advocating for, eliminating biases in systems and so forth. But even more importantly, it's much more important to walk the walk and actually put in the effort to say something, and to do something. Thank
I
you for that,
love
Hope.
that.
Yeah, me too.
Yes,
Me
I
too.
love
Thank you.
that.
So, Hope, I'm telling you, this conversation has really been incredibly rich. We've discussed everything from energy alignment and leadership legacy to technology ethics and everything in between. Obviously, the path forward for women in leadership as well. So, before we close, I do have one final question for you. If you could leave our listeners with one key takeaway, whether it could be about wellness, leadership, technology, whatever, but if you could leave our listeners with one key takeaway, what would it be?
Actually, I'm going to give them a new one, and
Okay.
not anything we have talked about.
Excellent.
I want to encourage them to think about the best is yet to come. Yes, we still need to make progress for women in technology. Yes, AI seems to be messy. We need to adopt and in a responsible way. Yes, we need more great leaders in corporations. Yes, this, yes, that. Yes, the best is yet to come, and we can be part of that to create the future.
Wow. I love it. I'm gonna let those words just sit for a second. I'm not even gonna respond because that was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hope. I got to tell you, your words they carry both wisdom and warmth, and I just know that this episode is going to really resonate deeply with the listeners across every stage of their personal and professional journey. I'm truly honored to include you in my tribe of mentors. You've really reminded us that reflection, it's not just about looking back. It's about standing in our truth as we move forward. So thank you for that, Hope. To everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us on Silicon Heartland Sessions. If this conversation sparked something in you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. So until next time, lead with energy, reflect with courage, and never stop rising. Thank you, Hope.
Thank you, Sean. It's such a pleasure.